So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to today's presenter, Topia's very own Rebecca Applewhite, who is our Director of Solutions Consulting. Rebecca, why don't you take us away?
Thanks, Sean, and welcome everybody to today's Topia Passport webinar. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you a high-level overview of our brand new Compass application and how it can support your business travel and distributed workforce programs. Before I dive into the Compass module, let's just take a few seconds to have a reminder about the overall Topia Global Talent Mobility Platform and the 5 core modules that support the length and breadth of your globally mobile employees, whether that is planning and budgeting for your potential moves with Topia Plan, managing your global workforce through intuitive dashboards and business process automation with Topia Manage, making sure your mobile employees are paid with automated payroll and compensation collection tools that are specifically designed for those quirky mobility challenges with Topia Pay, supporting those moving employees with delightful consumer-grade mobility tools with Topia Go, and of course, our special subject for today, tracking and managing the extensive compliance and regulatory requirements that are growing all the time around business travelers and distributed workforce with Topia Compass. So we deliberately have a flexible modular approach, and that means that we can deploy these modules or applications either singularly or in combination to support each organization's specific talent mobility needs at any point in time. And today we'll be looking at Topia Compass. So we know too well that the global compliance landscape for business travelers and our new pattern of distributed workers is littered with compliance regulations, which vary in complexity depending on the unique requirements of particular jurisdictions and the specific individuals that are undertaking some travel. The business travelers and distributed workers can create compliance risk in any or even all of these 4 high-level categories of risk, whether that is corporate tax, potentially through, for example, creating permanent establishment exposure, payroll requirement risk through potentially crossing a payroll withholding threshold, duty of care obligations, such as ensuring we have appropriate immigration or work permit rights, and looking after our employees with respect to minimizing health and security implications. And then, of course, specific regulatory and compliance risk relating to particular geographies. For example, global social security obligations or statutory reporting requirements such as Appendix 4 reporting in the UK or European Posted Worker Directive obligations. So the Topia Compass module is designed to help organizations minimize these multitudinous risks. Compass is a cloud-based location intelligence solution, and it delivers compliance for distributed workforce and business travelers by leveraging advanced location data analytics, contextual and comprehensive technology logic, combined with a great user experience. Many of our customers today use the Compass application to minimize financial and compliance risk effectively and efficiently. So for example, we've helped organizations save millions of dollars, both through minimizing unanticipated taxes and penalties, but also through optimizing and accurately pinpointing the taxable footprint of their distributed workforce based on a new reality of our remote workers. We've minimized the amount of manual effort required in tracking travel activity through the application of our intelligent technology-first tools. And we've helped organizations proactively manage multi-jurisdictional withholding, tax, and immigration risk exposure. And I'd like to show you how. So let's take a look first of all at the way that the Compass module has been constructed. So we've got 3 core pillars that comprise the foundational architecture of the Compass module. And these are really important in the context of explaining how our tool works. So first of all, we have our location engine. Now this is key for creating a system of record for your worldwide travel activity. And we've got the capability here of sourcing that travel activity from a combination of either active or passive data sources. This means that we can flexibly adjust to your organization's specific needs and indeed segment the ways that we look after, track, and manage specific segments of your population. Next, we've got our context engine. So that takes that system of record, all that wonderful, rich, comprehensive global travel data, and then computes the implications for specific compliance or other use cases. Here we're using a rich set of configurable thresholds and logic obtained from a combination of your organization's policies, from partnerships with some of the top 10 tax and immigration providers, and from your organization's own systems of record in respect of specific information about employees that can be obtained from your core HR systems, such as in which projects are they working, who is their line manager, and what compensation range are we looking at. And then finally, we put those two together and use our workflow engine to trigger and automate the downstream's actions, whether that is planning or dealing with compliance through a combination of internal and external business processes or services. Our capability is supported by out-of-the-box integrations with the systems and providers that surround the business traveler landscape today, whether they are pre-built integrations with core global travel or expense providers, which supports the passive data collection in our location engine, core HRIS integrations with Workday or SAP SuccessFactors, for example, to support our contextual logic, and defined workflows and integrated feeds with payroll, tax, and immigration providers, among others, to help support that workflow engine. So let's take a look at how it works in practice. We'll start with our location engine. So as mentioned already, we can use a combination of either active data or passive data sources. When thinking about passive data sources, we apply proprietary algorithms to scrub and cleanse the data to indicate the best outcome. Our proprietary algorithms can take data that looks a little bit like this and ignore red herrings such as Uber headquarter locations in California for a cab expense here, as well as applying logic in terms of, for example, flight late arrival or departure times to ascertain a high level of accuracy when determining the travel location for the employee. But let's now have a look at the active applications. So Topia Compass can deploy mobile phone or laptop applications, or indeed on a tablet, to actively track and manage employees' whereabouts. And let's take a look at how that works in practice today. So here I am in the Topia Compass employee-facing travel calendar. So the principal objective of our employee-facing applications are, first of all, they are, wherever they are active, they are completely opt-in. We also want to make it as easy as possible for employees to use, while still obtaining as much live, accurate travel activity as possible to help you ensure optimum compliance management. So this is my travel calendar that's fully optimized for either access via a smartphone or a browser. The travel calendar has been automatically filled in with location data, in this example from my mobile phone application and from my work laptop application. It's been completed to make my review and interaction as quick and painless as possible. It's representing the information from a tax jurisdiction perspective. You can see that the tool has determined I've been in the UK, and I'm able to define a specific type of activity, as this can have a bearing on some types of residency or workday allocation logic. We can also enable the tracking of specific projects or other activities like attending board meetings and so on. If the employee needs to manually review, change, remove, or even add trips, it's extremely easy and quick to do so using our calendar application. I'm going to pretend I'm going to travel to Germany. Unfortunately, not likely in these situations, but quick and easy to do so. So we've got a automatic completion of the calendar based on the combination of data sources that we're using for our organizations, whether that's passive or active, and the ability to manually review, edit, adjust, or add specific trips via the calendar application. Your employees also receive a visual representation of their travel activity over a specific time period, in this case, year to date, and I can quickly and easily have an overview of my key locations, including my activity and my travel pattern in each of those. Now, as an organization, you have an incredibly rich set of data from either passive or active data sources that has been pre-cleansed and scrubbed to present you with an accurate picture of your distributed workforce anywhere in the world. You can adjust the time frame and you can drill down into any location to find specific information about the travelers at that location at your fingertips. So this travel activity dashboard is the basis on which we can then overlay our contextual data, rules, and policy logic to help you solve specific problems. For example, in terms of contextual data, via feeds with your core HR systems or other internal systems, we can pull in key information about the traveler, their unique ID, their line manager, their organizational entity, the project or legal entity to which they are connected, and so on. Via our partnerships with some of the top 10 tax and immigration firms, we can pull in specific compliance logic that drives and computes the implications using a comprehensive global framework. And using your organization's configurable policy thresholds, we can provide a flexible, robust, comprehensive context engine that fits your risk appetite as well as your business logic. So let's take a specific compliance challenge. Let's talk about, to start with, payroll withholding. I'm going to navigate back to the organizational view of the Compass application and turn to my withholding dashboard. This dashboard has taken the travel activity and then overlaid the payroll threshold logic on top of the travel activity data. And I can see wherever my traveling employees have crossed a specific threshold, and those thresholds again are configurable based on your policy and risk appetites, or based on our partnerships of information from the tax and immigration service providers. Let's take a look at the US, for example. You may know already that each US state has its own payroll withholding thresholds, and the rules vary in terms of the days or rates applied. We can support these thresholds logic and provide you with a comprehensive risk and compliance dashboard based on this specific compliance challenge, in this case, payroll withholding risk. You can dive down into the specific locations, in this case, New York State, or employees to get a more specific and accurate picture of the risk and related requirements. In this case, the suggested payroll withholding apportionment for each US state for this individual. In the case of payroll withholding, we can alert individuals and employees and their employers when they are approaching a threshold. And that helps us not only to drive downstream requirements where thresholds have already been passed, but also to support organizations with pre-travel assessments to plan to minimize as much exposure as possible. So our contextual logic also supports pre-travel planning, assessment, and compliance. And let's take a look at what that looks like for a traveling employee. Once the employee's made a booking via the organization's travel provider, or even kicked off a manual trip using the Compass calendar application, our contextual logic determines that there may well be an assessment required in terms of pre-travel risk. The employee receives an automated notification and is then guided through an automated assessment that creates an initial determination of the likely compliance requirements, whether that is in relation to immigration, tax, social security, or otherwise. Compass pre-populates employee details and trip information from a combination of either the data source about the trip or the company's system of record about the employee. Any missing personal information, for example, a social tax number, can be quickly gathered from the employee. The employee can also confirm the trip purpose or any other information that was not already captured via the trip booking. And then the responses are collected and forwarded to the next stage in the automated process, depending on your business logic. So we've looked at the location engine and the contextual logic. Let's take a look at our workflow system now. So our workflow engine can now trigger and automate the actions required, whether that is a notification to the employee's line manager, asking them to confirm the nature of the upcoming business trip. It could be a notification to your in-house compliance services team filled with the information about the upcoming trip. We might be initiating downstream services from your multitude of service providers, or pre-completing online forms through data feeds. And all of this is supported by real-time sharing of status milestone information around those required services, whether that is, for example, A1, business visa expiry dates, or otherwise. Let's take a final quick look at our reporting capability before I turn to questions. So I'm going to navigate back to the organization's view of the Compass application and head to my reporting suite. In here, I can download and access at any point in time specific reports to help solve my compliance requirements. For example, my workday travel summary. This shows a workday withholding summary, and I've got an example in my Excel already. So this shows the apportionment of all of my individuals' work days in the specific locations in which they have worked, which can then be used by payroll teams to do the calculations for withholding purposes. Another great example is our jurisdiction standard reports. So this has been used to great effect recently, for example, by supporting organizations to determine their taxable footprint in relation to various city limit, payroll, withholding or reporting requirements. Our reports can be exported in specific feed formats to be read by payroll software or other provider software for calculation purposes to minimize manual calculation steps required. So whatever your compliance challenge, Topia Compass can help. Let me just navigate back to the slides, excuse me. Whatever your compliance challenge, we can help by supporting your distributed workforce and business traveler compliance through advanced location data analytics, rich contextual thresholds and logic supported by preferred partnerships and integrations, and a fantastic user experience. So I see I've got 5 minutes left of your time. Sean, have there been any questions?
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, we have had a couple of questions come through, and if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and get started reading those off to you. So the first question that we received is, how do you deal with GDPR or other data privacy requirements?
Absolutely, very fundamental and important question. So we're fully GDPR compliant, and we've been through rigorous information security and data privacy requirements, including, for example, Workers' Council approval in Germany, which we've gone through several times with success, and US-based financial institutions bank grade privacy requirements. It also depends on the nature of the data that we're using. Our active employee tracking applications do not work at all unless the employee deliberately opts in. We never ever reveal the exact location. We are only looking at enough data to confirm the tax jurisdiction, and we never ever sell or share any of this data outside of your organization.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, Rebecca. So the next question is, how do you obtain or set the tax, immigration, or other compliance thresholds?
Yeah, so we have quite a flexible but also robust approach to those global thresholds. So for some of our customers, we work directly with their internal compliance teams and their own service providers to confirm and develop policy thresholds and logic in line with their own risk appetite and existing policies. For many of our contextual compliance engines, for example, those that look at global pre-travel immigration risk assessments or European posted worker requirements, we can also license logic and thresholds through our partnerships with some of those top 10 accounting and immigration firms.
Great, so it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility there.
Indeed.
Okay, another question that's come in is, how does the laptop app determine location? I guess the mobile phone app makes a little bit more sense, but how does the laptop app get location information?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, you're right. The mobile phone application is using location tracking information. The laptop application is scanning through your Wi-Fi to see which available networks are being used. Each of those are typically connected to a router, and Google's got a service that's mapped the location of most of those routers. So we're able to define the router code, ask Google where that code is location, located and then use that location. So we're not using IP addresses to determine location through the laptop app, rather the location of the Wi-Fi router.
Great, that's good to know. So Rebecca, a final question that's come in is, would this tool be helpful for a company that only has business travel into and out of one state or within one state, so no international travel or additional locations?
Absolutely, yes. So our tool is flexible in that it can be streamlined to handle just the high risk or specific jurisdictions that you want to look at. So if you're looking at only 1 or 2 states, for example, within the US, it would still be helpful. We can work with you to determine that your travel pattern and risk profile, and as part of implementation, ensure that the application is looking at only those jurisdictions or risk challenges that make the most sense to your organization at this point in time.
Great, thanks for clarifying that. All right, at this time, we don't have any other questions and we're right at the bottom of the hour. So excellent timing, Rebecca, on getting through that presentation so speedy. I wanna thank everyone for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at info@topia.com, quite easy to remember. And as I mentioned, we will share the recording typically within the next day or so, and you can visit us at topia.com to learn more. So thanks so much everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.